Welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Lens with your hosts, Jake and Scott. In this week's episode, we are going to unpack Heaven Hill Grain to Glass Chinkapin Oak Edition. So sit back and buckle into the latest episode of the Bourbon Lens. Scott, your favorite distillery has innovated yet again. What do you think of large-scale distilleries, not just Heaven Hill, when they try to innovate and it's just different than secondary maturation?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's got to be a big step for them because production size, like they're running batches upon batches upon batches worth of whiskey. So to stop the still, I mean, this was all 6 years ago, but to stop the still, switch to a different mash bill or 3 different mash bills here, it's going to be a little bit easier for them now. Now that they've got the new distillery online, the Heaven Hill Springs. So, yeah, I mean, it's great because it's like we see smaller distilleries. This is where they're innovating. They always talk about our partner at ISC or our partner at Kelvin and these special barrels, or we've got grain, which is grown right down the road. So it's like the big guys eventually had to do it. I mean, they're kind of forced by craft distilleries to say, okay, we see you, and now we're going to show you what we can do.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And, I think the grain varietal kind of champion obviously is New Riff, and I think they're in that large scale craft, I think is how they're qualified, right? Because I don't know if they produce enough barrels to be not considered craft by proof gallon, but New Riff, I feel like, led the charge. And then we saw, one of the preeminent distilleries a couple years ago before Grain to Glass came out was Jim Beam, and they released, the Hardin's Creek stuff. And then, you had the Claremont, the Boston, and the Frankfurt releases. And so playing with terroir. And so I think it's really interesting when the larger players do go out, source different grain, and do these different type of barrel projects that are allowing the grain and the product to shine, and you're not hiding it. And I'm using that in quotations, with a finish, right? You are just letting the grain and the barrel do all the shining, which I think is super unique.
Yeah, because I just remember my time going back to like the Bourbon Trail and just doing the normal consumer tour. They always talk about, we're getting all of our barrels from ISC, or we're getting all of our barrels from this cooperage, and they're all the same. And we want everything to be the same, so everything is consistent. But then it's like, well, now you've got to play around. You've got different mash bills. You've got different wood products, there's different obvious woods, white oak and things like that, but finishing and then primary maturation too. So it's like, it's kind of changing that selling point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, this is something that the Heaven Hill family, the Shapira family, I feel like loves this idea of getting close to the grain producers. We'll talk about that here in a minute. And I think it's a next step for Heaven Hill, right? You have seen that they are aging some of the largest quantities of barrels inside the state of Kentucky, if not even the world, at this point. And for them to be able to say, you know what, we can take a step back. We don't have to produce HH Reg every day. We don't have to produce the wheated mash bill every day. We can actually switch things up when allowed to be able to experiment. And so this project has taken a while because it's finished in this thing called Chinkapin. And I feel like we only know Chinkapin from, Michter's fame, right? With their Baumburgers and Shanks profiles. And so we looked this up. It's also in the press release. For those people who don't know, can you share a little bit, if you still have it up, what Chinkapin Oak is?
Yeah, so it's just a variety of white oak, American white oak. And it's used for, or supposedly used for, like its high vanilla content, which, vanillins is kind of the note that people associate with bourbon. So it's like taking that up a notch and trying to get more, not just charred wood, but trying to get more complex notes out of the aromas. And just sitting here smelling these, I was just like kept going back, and it's like It's almost like a men's like cologne, like that note that kind of carries through like cedar wood, like that like musky, oaky note. I don't know.
Dracar.
Dracar Noir.
Cool water. That's like what my dad had growing up. You know, I feel like if our buddy George, Atlas and Mason, is listening to this right now, he's like, Jake, you need to get some new colognes, man. Like, if those are the two, like, keep it moving.
Yeah.
Shout out George. If you want fashion advice, go follow George. He's got it. That's not on me, as I wear a nice bright orange Broncos hoodie.
I'll say we're both in hoodies. It must be sweater weather season.
It is, but it's 72 now. It was cool this morning, not so much now. So what's also really interesting about this is they're aged completely in this Chinkapin Oak for 6 years. So they made a very concerted effort to say, you know what, we're not just going to secondary maturation these. We're going to first maturation out of the barrel. And this is, kind of a, point forward. This is the first edition of the barrel series. So I'm excited to see what the next edition of this is already, right? Just kind of nosing these and trying these, that experimentation I think is very unique as well.
Yeah, and we won't find out for another year or so, I guess. It seems like this might be like an annual release. Now, they're already aging, so maybe we could dig and try to figure out, what type of oak. But maybe there's some failed experiments in there. Maybe they've used other types of wood, and this is the one that was ready. And, at 6 years, I mean, that's a good age statement for something that's purely experimental.
Well, yeah, I mean, like you can probably like Google types of oaks used for barrels. Obviously, French would be one that we would, speculate on. Mizunara could be one, right? Heaven Hill's probably got enough clout to get some Mizunara barrels 6 years ago. And then from there, it's like you might be looking at certain varietals of oak inside the United States that obviously I'm not a horticulturist. I don't even know if that's the right term. An arborist.
Arborist. Yeah, I don't know.
Sounds right.
And
I go to an arboretum to look at trees, but as an arborist, someone who treats the arboretum.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at this Wikipedia page and my eyes are like kind of crossing because, they've got the genus and the species and the subgenus and the family and the order and the kingdom. And you're like, what? But
correct. And you thought bourbon people were nerds.
Yeah. It's apparently not that rare of a tree. It's not like Brazilian umbrana or anything like that, but it is pretty much in the Midwest. So this is the region out to Iowa and Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, Kentucky. So it's kind of growing in this region. So you probably see these trees all over the place.
Yep. So it's really, really interesting. And, I don't know if it's anything about like our generation, but like my dad and his parents, they can like point out trees and they could point out like flowers. Somehow I missed that memo. Like growing up, my grandma would walk through her little garden and she was like, this is a boop and a boop. And I'm like, where did you learn that? Oh, on the farm. I'm like, and then my dad can do it. I'm like, Dad, why didn't you teach your brother? I'm like, he's like, we got to plant hostas this year. And I'm like, what's a hosta?
Yeah, we're not the green thumbs of the.
No, definitely not. But,
I mean, I could point out like a black walnut tree because those grew in my grandmother's yard and those walnuts fell everywhere and they were a freaking mess. But
I can point out a persimmon tree because I have one and I hate it. So
just need need a saw to cut it down.
Yeah, I do, but I don't like chainsaws. They scare me. I've seen way too many like horror movies and just like I feel like I've heard about bad accidents.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah. Yeah, just a guy with a I don't do scary movies. Like I like Silence of the Lambs. Like I love that because it's kind of like a thriller scary movie, but like you don't see a lot of stuff. But like I don't do blood and gore. Like Saw. not a fan.
No, not at all.
Just not for me. Spooky season though. So just real quick on the rundown of these, we have the bourbon, we have a wheated, and we have a rye, which are the traditional three types of whiskeys that they put out in market. So I believe you're sipping on the bourbon right now, which is a 52% corn, 35% rye, 13% malted barley at 105 proof. The wheated, which we have in our glass next, is a 52% corn, high wheat, 35% wheat, and a 13% malted barley. And then the rye is a higher than Kentucky rye, 63% rye, 24% corn, 13% malt. So the only thing really consistent in these mash bills is the malt. And then obviously on the bourbon and the wheat, they switch the rye and the wheat, both 35%, and the corn stays at 52%. They use a special style of corn for this. Again, to get nerdy on this, they use Beck's 6225 was chosen and grown by multi-generation family run Peterson Farms in Nelson County, just across the road from Heaven Hill's Bardstown campus. It's not yellow dent number 2. Right.
Yeah.
That's about what I'm going to say to that. But it is cool because this is a hybrid. It's a family-owned seed company. So they got to play with, how this, varietal is made. And so that leads us to, the bourbon, which, this is not HH Reg, right? When the bourbon you are in love with, and so are many more people in the world. The one thing I will say before I kind of let you share your thoughts on this, fruitier than anything else I've ever had from Heaven Hill. Like, that's the thing that's standing out to me. The fruit forward notes, I think, are the most interesting thing on the bourbon wheat and the rye.
Yeah, I think the fruit, at least from like the nosing perspective, really stands out, especially in the rye. In terms of like the palate, like I've only tasted the bourbon just now, but on the nose of all of them, it's that fragrant, perfumey, woody note that just keeps coming back. Like it's like inviting you into the glass. But it's not, it's not HH Reg, which is just, it smells like caramel corn and, a little bit of peanut, but,
no, this one is more rich. I feel like this is, of these from a nose perspective, I think it leans to the season that we're in right now, like a little bit darker notes, a lot of like dark chocolate, and like figgy, leathery, oaky notes in this nose and palate. And people are like, oh, have you ever licked leather before? No, I've not, but I've been around leather enough to know what it smells like. And that is going to invite my palate to feel that way. But those like richer, deep, complex notes. And to borrow, our friend John, the bourbon finder, it's layered. This has nice layer to it. It's not just one note. It's the nose is one thing. There's complexity on the palate. The finish kind of stays with you, which I like. I mean, if you're going to drink something, especially at $129 and 105 proof, let me experience that. And I feel like this is an experiential type of pour.
Yeah, you want something that's nuanced that you can sit back and enjoy as a complex whiskey. You go back 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, the same glass, you might get something totally different. But yeah, I mean, this has a nice rye content to it, but I can't tell if it's the wood influence also, like that peppery oak note. But it's almost like I just got out of like the shower and I, body wash or whatever. Like it's that immense, like, wow, that's really fragrant.
It's like you got a contact from someone who wore too much cologne. So like you didn't put it on, but you brushed up against Johnny with his shirt unbuttoned and his gold chain. And now you smell good because Johnny overspread.
Because you're rubbing up on Johnny.
You were going to the club. You were trying to get you a drink of the Heaven Hill, Grain to Glass series up at the bar. And Johnny was just you had to body them a little bit, and so you gotta.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely in like an inviting nose.
Mm-hmm. I think it's very fall forward. There's almost like a like pumpkin-y spice type of note in here, like that pumpkin spice note that everyone loves. It's favorite thing to do. I love to drink the bourbon, but man, nose in a glass afterwards, I might get just as much enjoyment out of that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely true.
Yeah. But I think it's also interesting as a traditional distillery departs from their traditional mash bill, right?
Not even close, right? I mean, it's not even close to their traditional mash bill. It's
70+% corn in their traditional mash bill.
Yeah, and this is just barely a bourbon. 52% corn on both of the bourbons. 52. So, yeah,
they're letting the secondary grain shine.
Yeah, definitely. Do we want to like switch to the wheat or the rye next?
I think we stay in the bourbon family. We go to the wheated bourbon.
Let me rearrange here.
And I think as of late, Heaven Hill wheated bourbon has become the it thing, right? Old Fitz, the Decanter Series, Old Fitz #7, right there. You have the Elijah Craig Barrel Proofs. You have the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof Rye now, the Elijah Craig Toasted. You've got Rittenhouse single barrel picks that are starting to hit the market, right? But the wheated profile, though, has kind of like taken it by storm out in the marketplace. And so it's really interesting to see them even move away from what is the wheated profile that is taking the world by storm.
Ooh.
That was a good sip right there. That was a good sip. Just heard it all. It was good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was my first one of the wheated, and it's that's a little bit more traditional, like Heaven Hill, like a little nutty caramel, like not as fruity as the first one, but it just kind of lingers. It's real heavy. That's nice.
See, like I get like a stewed raspberry, like a raspberry compote on the nose, balanced with like some confectionery sugar and spice, which I would imagine is coming from the barrel. But their brulee note, that like a little bit of char kind of comes through there on the nose, and then on the palate, I think it's warming. It's same proof point, 105. I think this has got a little more oomph in the chest. And ultimately, I think it has a lot of traditional characteristics. I agree with that. But, when we look at the characteristics of what does a Chinkapin Oak impart, butterscotch, creme brulee, toasted nut, chocolate, and coffee notes, like definitely butterscotch, creme brulee, toasted nut, I would say is really, I think the wheat plays really good against that barrel.
I'm almost wondering, though, if those are the notes that you would get in like the 6-year, but not necessarily in like a 10-year or a 12-year. I'm sure that they've got the experiments going, for longer term, but I wonder at what point does the wood kind of like stop being such an influence? Like you put something in wood today and taste it tomorrow, you're going to get like a big rush of whatever the external char
wood is.
Yeah. But if you let it mellow out and kind of incorporate, I wonder if, maybe at 10 years, Chinkapin Oak doesn't have as big an effect, and then it just kind of develops into a well-aged whiskey. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah,
it's like when you toasted finish, like they're only finishing that for like 6 months, let's say 6 months to a year or whatever, but you get like a rush of toasted oak because it's just like kind of like, it's so influential right up front.
Yeah, the bell curve for the oak is different. I don't know, interested, but the interesting point, and I think I drank that, my last little sip of that, and the coffee note, like coffee with creamer, and someone like, it'd be interesting with like Stephen Fonte, somebody who is a big coffee tea guy, to hear him, because I think coffee can impart a lot of fruity characteristics, I don't pick those up as much. And so there's that note there. And I think there's some underlying coffee type notes that would bring out some more fruit characteristics in this. I just don't know if my palate's sophisticated enough. But that back end, like mocha, I hate coffee, but I do like the way it I love the aroma of coffee.
Yeah. And it lingers with you too. Like when you drink coffee, you typically have coffee continuing with you for a period of time. Unlike tea, some teas are more like coffee in that way, but most teas are lighter. Like they kind of wash over the palate. You get the aroma, and then you get the palate to kind of wash across. But then it ultimately disappears, other than the sensation of like the acidity or like the drying effect of the tea. But this definitely lingers with you for quite a while. Now, I think that's why it feels a little heavier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really, really well done pour. Very enjoyable. Now, the question is, we've had two. Pick a favorite.
I think I'm going to go with the wheated for now. Just in terms of, I don't necessarily feel that it's more complex than the rye bourbon, but I like just the mouthfeel a lot better.
Yeah, I can see that. I was going to go bourbon. I like that chocolate note that's happening in the first one a ton. I think it's really good. But I think this leads us to the most unique one, right? The rye, finished in Chinkapin. And we go up in proof to 107 proof. Again, 63 rye, 24 corn, 13% malted barley. Toasted coconut. Hear me out on that from the right on the front nose. That toasted coconutty, cheesecakey thing going on up front. A lot of vanilla. Like if you had like a toasted coconut layer on top of a cheesecake, that's what I'm getting from a nose perspective. It's a really, really specific thing, guys. And I just love cheesecake. I'm a big cheesecake fan.
I definitely get like the vanilla cakey notes with this one. Mm-hmm. But it has like a tropical fruit to it too. Like, I'm not sure if it's like pineapple. It might be like ambiguous tropical fruit, whatever, wherever your mind takes you whenever you think of the tropical fruits, going on vacation or whatever, having some kind of tiki drink or something like that. But maybe like that coconut, pineapple, like fruitiness on the nose. I mean, I haven't even really tasted it yet, but we're gonna do that.
Well, then I'm gonna go ahead while you take a sip and tell you that, boy, does that take you on a tropical ride. Like that is a stellar rye whiskey. Like I don't know if I've had a better rye whiskey this year. Like that is really good.
It's bright.
That's what I like about it. It's bright. There's a little bit of like lingering spice pepper note on the back end, but like the brightness, the vanilla, the fruitiness, that fruit cocktail. I mean, come on. That's phenomenal.
It's almost like you go back to your coffee analogy, my retired barista, self. I always preferred like African coffees because to me they had less acidity. Like, Latin American coffees I felt like had a higher acid content, but they always had like this bright, like orange and like citrus note. They kind of just like popped. It just, especially like when you would eat like some sort of pastry or something to go along with the coffee. When you did that, it just made it so like, it just made your mouth like wake up. Like the coffee just did its job. That's what this does. It's like, it just is like making your taste buds just like go crazy.
It's a pop. And like, I took a drink of water, reset my palate, and then had another sip. The pop's still there, but then there's a little more chocolate, like bitterness that kind of comes in. This would be a hell of a old fashioned or a Manhattan for those people who like that Manhattan. Not I, said the little piggy, but you still have time. We're here on Friday. You could still participate in Old Fashioned Week with this guy.
Oh yeah, it is wrapping up, isn't it?
But I think that rye is stellar. I got a new favorite. The rye is my favorite.
Higher proof, higher rye content.
Higher proof. The proof, I wouldn't say you could tell.
I don't think that any of these like really taste proofy, but they taste like they have a good body. Correct.
And so, but it fits our profile under 110. I mean, that's kind of what we're looking for. So again, these are starting to hit nationally, start November, limited quantities. These will be around, MSRP is $129.99. If you do look at the bottle, you'll say, isn't it a little bit smaller? It is 700 mils. So a little bit different than, your previous thing. It's in a bespoke bottle. It's embossed, family owned since 1935. The bottle features a jewel tone labels, unique to each mash bill, a gold coin cork insert, and a tack strip calling out the Chinquapin Oak barrels. In keeping with the brand's focus on transparency, each label also details the corn varietal mash bill distillation and release years, complemented by custom illustrations that nod to Bernheim Distillery and the Kentucky's farming traditions. Wow. Apparently, they don't teach you how to read well in Kentucky either.
He's had 3 sips of bourbon or two bourbons.
This isn't a bourbon thing. This isn't a whiskey thing. This is a Jake thing.
That was just an English language thing. We all do it. We all do it.
It was a bear to English.
These are nice. These are really nice. I mean, limited release, right? So, maybe they're going to hit a few more markets. Maybe people are going to be able to come across them. But if you're a fan of Heaven Hill, and you want to see what they can do outside of like their ultra age stuff and their standard HH reg, which not everybody loves. I do, but whatever. Might be worth picking up. It's a special occasion bottle. I don't think it's like an everyday sipper. Now, I don't think you're gonna be disappointed if you sit around this, and taste it over the course of a few days. You're gonna probably get a lot of different notes.
Yeah, I think this is a bottle you revisit once, twice, 3 times, and then you finish it on the 3rd time with a group of friends. But it's a great bottle. We tried the last Old Fitz 9 compared to the 7. If you're looking to spend a little money in the collection of Heaven Hill, and you could pick up an Old Fitz decanter, probably $150 or this. I'd lean this way. I think it's a little more unique. It's a little bit different. Even though the decanter is the most beautiful bottle in the industry, I think it's good. Here's the thing. We love Heaven Hill. Like, we really enjoy the brand. We'll tell you if we like it or not, truly. But each of these offer something a little bit different and unique. And I think they all work in their own unique way. And I'm just excited that another big distillery is playing with grain varietals and able to do something different.
Yeah, one of the big guys. I mean, I think that we're probably going to see a lot of their experiments start to roll out because for so long they were just trying to keep up with demand and, production and things like that. But now we're 6 years into their they're ramping up of production. So it's like, you're going to start to see these things trickle out. Yeah.
For sure. Well done, Heaven Hill. Well done, Connor. Well done, the whole distillation team and the marketing team that put this together. If you see this out and about during this October, November, December, be on the lookout, pick it up. I think you'll really enjoy it. And we'll catch you next time on the Bourbon Lens. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Bourbon Lens. Make sure you're connected with Scott and I via social media on Instagram, X, and Facebook. We'd love to connect. And if you're more the professional type, follow us over on LinkedIn. If you want to know more about Bourbon Lens, make sure you're subscribed to our weekly newsletter, The Weekly Pour. For exclusive content and more, check out Patreon. Follow us there at Bourbon Lens. And last but not least, on your favorite podcast listening app, make sure you're subscribed because every Monday, Scott and I release a podcast, and we would love to have you here listening to the newest features and the newest whiskey news. And until next time, cheers.